Her toothbrush was already gone. That was the first thing I noticed. Not her face. Not the fake smile. Just the empty slot in the bathroom cup where her pink toothbrush used to be. The moment she walked through the bedroom door with her bag half zipped and her perfume clouding up the air like a fog of arrogance, I knew she wasn't bluffing. "I won't be gone long," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Don't overreact." I didn't say anything. Not yet. She was wearing that dress. The one she used to save for our date nights. The navy blue one with the open back and the slit up the side. I hadn't seen her wear it in over a year. Not for me, at least. Now it was for him. She didn't say his name. She didn't have to. The look in her eyes was a test. A dare. Like she wanted to see if I would snap, throw something, scream, beg. I did none of that. She was standing at the foot of our bed, zipping up her bag like she was off to a spa retreat instead of her ex's house. Then she laughed, a soft, smug chuckle, and said, "You don't have to wait up." That's when I said it. "I won't." She blinked. "Not much. Just enough." "I mean it," I added, quieter this time. "There won't be anything to come back to." I think she thought I was bluffing too. Her smirk tightened like a glitch in a video game, and she cocked her head. "You're being dramatic again." But I wasn't. The second the door closed behind her, I moved fast. Not in anger. Not even in pain. Just clarity. Cold, shaking, nauseating clarity. I opened the storage chest by the hallway closet and pulled out every keepsake I could find. Her anniversary cards. The framed Polaroid from our first camping trip. The matching Mr. and Mrs. mugs her mom gave us. I put them all in a trash bag, not because I was angry, but because they didn't mean anything anymore. They were souvenirs from a story she'd already rewritten without me. I didn't know where I was going to sleep that night, but I knew one thing. She would return to a version of this house that didn't recognize her anymore. And the second she saw what I'd done, she would realize this wasn't a tantrum. I didn't touch her side of the closet. Not out of respect. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't want to touch any of it. Her stuff felt radioactive. Like the moment I laid a finger on it, some old memory would explode in my face. Her sweaters still smelled like the lavender sachets she stuffed in every drawer. Her heels still lined up in perfect pairs, like nothing was wrong. It was insulting how normal everything looked. But I knew it wasn't. I packed a single duffel bag. Just enough clothes to disappear for a few days, or longer. I grabbed my passport, not because I had plans to leave the country, but because it was the only document I still believed in. I didn't slam drawers or break anything. I moved slow, quiet, like I was sneaking out of a crime scene before the body was cold. By midnight, I'd already rewritten the Wi-Fi password, removed her name from the car insurance, transferred half the savings to a separate account, not to hide money, but to make sure I had something when the dust settled. I even deleted the grocery list app we shared. Stupid, I know, but there was something satisfying about it. A final swipe. But the real move, the one that made everything real, was the envelope. I printed the photo from last Christmas, the one where we were smiling in front of the fireplace, holding mugs, and wearing ridiculous matching pajamas she forced me into. I taped it to the fridge, and under it, I stuck the note. "You traded this for one night at his house." I didn't. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. She'd know. I left the keys on the table and locked the door behind me. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I wasn't going to be there when she came back. I didn't want to see her face when she realized this wasn't just a shake-up or a warning shot. This was my resignation from a marriage she abandoned days before she packed that bag. The worst part? I still loved her. I still wanted it to be a prank. A horrible, twisted experiment she cooked up with her friends over wine just to see how I'd react. But deep down I knew. She was never coming back the same. And I wasn't waiting around to be her plan B. I didn't leave to hurt her. I left because she already hurt me, and I was the only one who noticed. That night, I slept in my car by the pier. The heater barely worked, and the windows fogged up from my breath. But for the first time in months, I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like someone begging for a place in his own life. I felt free. Cold. Scared. But free. She thought she'd get the last word by walking out. She had no idea what was waiting for her when she walked back in. I wasn't there when she came home. That was the point. I wanted her to feel that empty hallway, to open the door and find silence where my voice used to be. No jacket by the door. No shoes kicked off near the stairs. Just air. Still and unforgiving. According to the motion sensor app, She walked in at 9:42 a.m. I stared at the notification like it was a weather alert. And then I waited. I didn't text. I didn't call. I just sat on the pier, holding the phone like it was some kind of detonator, knowing something inside her was probably starting to detonate too. I imagined her face when she saw the fridge, when her eyes scanned that old photo and landed on my handwriting, sharp and tired. I imagined the way her expression would twist when she realized her power, the one she always held over me, had vanished overnight. She thought I'd be sitting on the couch with red eyes, waiting to beg. She expected guilt, pain, an argument. Instead, she found absence. 20 minutes passed, then 40. Still no message. She was probably pacing the house, checking drawers, looking for me, looking for signs of a tantrum. But there was nothing. No broken plates. No long, pleading letter. No accusations. Only precision. Only her toothbrush missing from the cup. And my key missing from the ring. When she finally did reach out, it was a voicemail. No intro. No apologies. Just that tight, clipped voice she used when she felt cornered. Edwin, this isn't funny. Where are you? Call me back. Now. I didn't. Instead, I logged into the streaming apps and removed all her profiles. I disabled the smart home controls, disconnected the Bluetooth speaker from her phone, and paused the meal kit subscription she insisted we try. She wanted to feel what it was like to be single again. I was just making the experience more authentic. I'd love to say I wasn't shaking when I did all this, that I felt strong, righteous. But the truth is, I felt sick, like my stomach was made of wet concrete, and someone kept pouring more into it. I kept thinking, what if she realizes it was a mistake? What if she actually comes clean and says she's sorry? But the thing is, she didn't. At 1:17 p.m., she sent another text. It just said, "We need to talk." And then, not even 10 minutes later, "This isn't what I wanted." But it was. It had to be. You don't pack an overnight bag for your ex and walk out of your marriage because you don't know what you want. You know. You just hope the other person won't do anything about it. But I did. And the hardest part? I still had more to do. I wasn't done yet. Because while she was sleeping in another man's bed, I was preparing something she'd never expect. A truth I should have told her years ago. I knew the next part would be the hardest. Not because of what I was about to do, but because of how badly I still wanted her to stop me. I kept checking my phone, hoping, maybe even praying, she'd say something real. Not defensive, not calculated. Just one sentence that felt like it came from the Delaney I married. But all I got was silence, then more silence, and then one final message that made something snap inside me. "I'm coming back tonight. Don't make this worse." That was it. No sorry. No explanation. Just a warning. Like she was still in charge. Like I was some puppy who'd chewed the carpet and now she had to come home and fix the mess. But the thing was, I hadn't left a mess. I had left a map. A very deliberate one. While she was gone, I didn't just leave the house. I set up a trail for her. And I know how that sounds. I'm not some mastermind or villain or whatever. I'm just a guy who got sick of waiting for dignity. So I did something she never would have expected from me. I gave her the truth in layers, like peeling back a rotten onion. The front door still opened with her key, sure, but it no longer felt like her home. The bedroom was stripped of all the warm little touches she once added. The candles, the plants, the blanket she crocheted when her sister was in the hospital. Gone. The fridge was empty except for a single post-it note on the middle shelf that said, "You erased everything. I'm just catching up." But that wasn't the part that would gut her. No, the real blow was what I left on the dining table. A small brown envelope with her name on it, her full name, in my handwriting. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a single key. But not to our house. To the apartment I had leased behind her back last fall. Yeah, that's the part I'd never told her. I signed for a place after one of our worst fights, convinced we were on the verge of collapse. I never moved into it, never even furnished it, but I kept paying the rent every month. Part of me hoped I'd never need it, that we'd fix things, that she'd come back to me somehow. But the moment she walked out with that bag to go stay with him, I realized that apartment had become my parachute. The note inside the envelope was short. Just this. If you want to remember who you left, go here. If you don't, throw away the key. Either way, don't come back. I wanted her to go there. I needed her to. Because waiting inside that empty apartment, in a place untouched by her, was everything she chose to forget. I had filled the walls with photos, old journal entries. Even that dumb letter I once wrote her on our 3rd anniversary and never gave her because I thought it sounded too desperate. I had laid it all out. A museum of a marriage she lit on fire. I wanted her to walk through it and feel something. Not guilt, not regret, just the reality of what she'd done. Because this wasn't a game. It wasn't a punishment. It was me, finally speaking louder than her silence. And when she saw what I'd built, or maybe what I'd salvaged, I knew everything would change. Either she'd realize what she threw away, or she'd finally admit it never mattered to her at all. But either way, the next move wouldn't be mine. I told myself I wasn't going to watch. That once I left the key and note, it was out of my hands. But of course, I couldn't help myself. I parked across the street, behind a dark-tinted windshield, sipping cold coffee and shaking like I'd just committed a crime. I don't know what I was expecting. Tears, maybe. Shock. Fury. Maybe she'd rip the key in half and walk away. But none of that happened. She stood outside the building for a long time. Just stood there, holding the envelope like it might burn through her fingers. Her hair was still curled, her coat still perfect. But her face looked different. Tight. Stretched between panic and pride. I watched her glance at her phone, then back at the door. I wondered if she was texting him. If he was the one who dropped her off. If he even knew she was married until last week. Eventually, she went in. I could see the security light flash red, then green. My stomach dropped. She was inside. That apartment hadn't seen daylight in months. The windows were all sealed, the lights dim, the air stale. I had placed everything with purpose. Every photo, every letter, even her forgotten voicemail from 3 years ago saved on an old burner phone, just waiting to be played. I wanted her to walk through that space like a ghost stumbling through her own memories. No curated versions. No Instagram smiles. Just the real stuff. The stuff that hurt. She stayed inside for almost an hour. I didn't blink. I watched the light in the window. It flickered once, then twice, then nothing. I kept picturing her walking room to room, picking up pieces of the man she used to love. Maybe she sat down. Maybe she read the letter I'd left last, the one that ended with the line, "You wanted to feel something again." I just wanted to stop feeling like I was nothing. And maybe, just maybe, she started to understand. But when she came out, something was off. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even rattled. She looked blank, like someone had erased her thoughts and left the shell standing. She got in her car, not a rideshare, not her ex's, and drove away without even glancing back at the building. And that's when I knew. Whatever she saw in there, it didn't hit her the way I'd hoped. It didn't shatter her. If anything, it might have confirmed what I feared most. That she was already gone long before she packed that bag. Still, something about the way she walked out, too calm, too composed, didn't sit right. Like she'd made some new decision inside those walls. Not one she'd say out loud. Not right away, but one that was coming. Later that night, I got a message. It didn't say, "I'm sorry." It didn't say, "I understand now." It was just 5 words. "Meet me tomorrow. Alone." And for the first time since she left, I didn't feel hopeful. I felt hunted. We met at a place she picked. Of course. A coffee shop downtown we used to go to before we got married. Before anything was broken. Before her eyes started looking through me. I hadn't been there in years. Not since I surprised her there on her birthday with a little ring box and no clue what I was getting into. The barista hadn't changed. Same weird glasses. Same stupid indie music humming in the background. But the table we used to love was empty, like the universe had saved it for one last disaster. She was already sitting there when I arrived. Hair pulled back. No makeup. No smile. She looked at me like I was an appointment she didn't want to attend. I sat down across from her, heart slamming against my ribs, fingers sweaty even though it was freezing outside. She didn't say hi. She just stared. And then, casually, like we were discussing grocery lists, she said, "Why did you set all that up?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "The apartment. The letters. That voicemail." It felt like a scavenger hunt for guilt. "Were you trying to make me cry?" I didn't know how to answer. Because yes, part of me wanted that. Part of me wanted her to finally crack under the weight of what she did. But hearing her frame it like some manipulative stunt made me feel smaller than I expected. I wasn't trying to trap her. I was trying to show her what she threw away. I told her that. She laughed. A dry, sharp laugh. "Edwin, you always thought feelings were currency. Like if you showed me enough of your pain, I'd give you mine back." Those words cut. deeper than any lie, any night she spent with him. Because they were cold, clean, rehearsed. She wasn't emotional. She was surgical. And that's when I finally saw her. Not the version I'd clung to, not the girl in our wedding photo, but this new version. Someone who had already rewritten our story in her head, where she was the brave one and I was just the guy who wouldn't let go. You didn't come here to apologize, I said, quieter than I meant to. She tilted her head. No, I came here to ask if you're done. Done. With the games, the drama, the letters, the haunting little apartment. I stared at her, stunned. She didn't get it. Or worse, she did, and she didn't care. Then she leaned in. Her voice dropped, low enough only I could hear it. Because if you're not done, I know exactly how to make this ugly for you. It felt like the floor tilted. I wasn't ready for that. I expected heartbreak, regret, maybe even shame. But not this veiled threat. This poison in a coffee shop. I pulled back slowly, watching her face, trying to find the woman I married. She wasn't there. So I nodded. Not because I was giving up, but because I understood something important in that moment. She didn't just leave me. She became someone else. And if I was going to survive this, I had to stop mourning her and start preparing for whatever storm she thought she could bring. But I already had a storm of my own, and she had no idea what I'd been keeping from her. I left that coffee shop without looking back. I didn't need to. Her words were still ringing in my ears, echoing like gunshots in a canyon. If you're not done, I know exactly how to make this ugly for you. It wasn't a bluff. I could see it in her face. Delaney wasn't bluffing anymore. She wasn't even pretending to be the version of herself I once loved. She was gone, replaced by someone who smiled while pulling the pin from a grenade, certain she could walk away before it exploded. But what she didn't know, what she never even thought to consider, was that she was still playing the old version of me. The begging, whiny, love-blind Edwin. The guy who clung to apologies that never came. The guy who wrote anniversary letters to a woman already erasing him in her head. That version of me died the night she stepped out in that navy dress and didn't bother lying about where she was going. I didn't go home after the meeting. I went to the office. Not my job office, my real office. The one she never knew existed. A single-room rental I had quietly taken up 6 months ago when I started freelancing again. She thought I had quit writing. I told her I had. But I didn't. I just stopped showing her what I was working on. Because every time I brought something up, she'd nod like I was a child holding a crayon drawing. That's cute, babe. Just don't get your hopes up. So I kept it secret. I built something in silence. Draft by draft. Rejection by rejection. Until 3 weeks ago. That's when the offer came in. A publishing deal. An actual, real contract from an actual, real publisher for a book I wrote about surviving emotional manipulation. About silence. About being made to feel invisible in your own marriage. About her, even if I never used her name. The story was raw, messy, full of fear and guilt and pain, but most of all, it was mine. And it was going to print. I hadn't told anyone. Not even my best friend. Not my mom. I hadn't even signed the contract yet. I wanted to wait until the timing was right. Until I felt strong enough to own it. But now the timing was perfect. So I sent her a copy. Not the book, it wasn't printed yet. But the manuscript. The original Word doc. The dedication page. The press release email from the editor. All of it. I attached it to an email and wrote one line. You wanted to know if I'm done. I was just getting started. Then I hit send. I don't know what reaction I expected. Maybe nothing. Maybe another threat. But I didn't hear from her for hours. Not even a read receipt. And for a while, that silence felt more dangerous than anything she could have said. But then, at 11:03 p.m., I got a message. It wasn't angry. It wasn't cold. It was 5 words. We need to talk. Now. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and opened the security app connected to my apartment building. There she was, standing in the entryway, her hands in her pockets. No makeup, no drama, just waiting. But this time, I didn't rush to open the door. Because for the first time since this all began, I finally had the upper hand. The knock came again, softer this time, like she wasn't sure she still had the right. I didn't move at first. I just stared at the door, heart steady for once. Not racing, not sinking, just still. I'd replayed this moment 100 times in my head. Sometimes I let her in and we fought. Sometimes she cried and begged. Sometimes I left her standing there. But not once did I imagine answering like this, with no fear, no anger, just clarity. When I opened the door, she didn't say anything right away. She just looked at me, really looked, like she was trying to find cracks in whatever strength I had found since she left. But there weren't any. I let her in. She walked slowly, cautiously, like the place might bite. She looked around. Same couch, same kitchen, same walls, but it wasn't the same home. It didn't feel like hers anymore. And I think she felt that instantly. I read the whole thing, she said finally. Your book. I nodded, watching her carefully. She sat down on the edge of the couch, hands shaking just slightly. You didn't use my name. But I knew. Every line. Every detail. I wasn't trying to expose you, I said calm. I was trying to free myself. She closed her eyes. I could see it building. Not rage, not panic. Something else. Something quieter. She took a breath and whispered, I didn't think you'd survive without me. That hit harder than anything. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. I sat across from her, no longer the man who used to beg for her to stay. I didn't survive because you left. I survived because I finally did. She started crying. Real tears this time. Not performative. Not manipulative. Just raw. I was lost, Edwin. I kept wanting you to pull me out, to fix it. And when you couldn't, I punished you for not saving me from myself. I didn't reach for her hand. I didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't. But I also didn't hate her. Not anymore. I know, I said quietly. But I'm not your lifeboat. She nodded. I know that now. For a long while, we sat in silence. And then she said something I'll never forget. I'm not asking to come back. I just didn't want the last word between us to be anger. That was when I finally exhaled. Then let's end it on truth. And that's what we did. We talked. Honestly. For the first time in years. Not about the past we ruined, but the lives we still had ahead. Separate ones. There were no fireworks. No hugs. No, maybe someday. Just two people who had loved, broken, hurt, and, finally, healed in different ways. She left around midnight. And this time, when the door closed behind her, it didn't feel like loss. It felt like peace. A week later, I signed the final publishing contract. A month later, my book launched. 6 months later, I was speaking on panels about emotional survival and self-worth. And exactly 1 year after the day she walked out that door with her overnight bag and a smirk, I met someone new. Someone quiet, kind, curious. A woman who didn't ask me to be anything but myself. And when I told her everything, all of it, she didn't flinch. She just said, you made it through. That's the part that matters. And she was right. I didn't just make it through. I walked out stronger than I ever thought possible.